When we talk about climate change, we usually think about heat, right? But to really get what's happening, we need to look past just the thermometer. The real story, the one that's hitting billions of people right now, is all about water.
And this quote, yeah, it just nails it. A hotter planet completely messes with our relationship with water. And, water is, well, it's everything, isn't it? That disruption, it's creating a world of really, really dangerous extremes.
So what do those extremes look like? Well, picture this. Our planet is swinging back and forth, like a pendulum between having way too little water, we're talking killer droughts, and then suddenly having way too much, which means just devastating floods. It's literally two sides of the same coin. And that's what we're going to unpack today.
All right, let's tackle that first side of the coin, the too little part. I want you to just imagine for a second, a huge city, millions of people, and one morning they turn on their taps and absolutely nothing comes out. It sounds like a movie plot, right? But this terrifying scenario, it's actually starting to happen. And this nightmare scenario, it even has a name. They call it a day zero drought. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's the day the water officially runs out. The day the city has to literally turn off the taps for millions of its residents. And the scary part? This isn't some what if anymore. It's real.
And look, this proves it's not some far-off problem for our grandkids. This was a stark warning just recently from Iran's president. He's talking about Tehran, a megacity, we're talking 15 million people, facing the very real possibility of having to evacuate because they might run out of water. Just think about that. Evacuating a city of 15 million.
But this isn't just a story about the Middle East. Not at all. Let's shift our focus to a country that scientists are pointing to as a massive hotspot for this water crisis. A nation with over 1 billion people teetering on the brink. India. And India's already had some seriously close calls. Back in 2019, the city of Chennai almost saw its reservoirs run completely dry. Now, Bengaluru faces a similar situation nearly every single year because the rains are so unpredictable. And just this year, Delhi had its own water crisis. You see the pattern here? It's this dangerous mix of a disrupted climate and, frankly, some pretty bad water management.
But like we said at the beginning, drought is only half of this story. Because what India and its neighbors are finding out the hard way is that the other side of the coin, the too much side, is just as deadly, and it's happening more and more.
Just look at the recent news. Cyclone Ditwa slammed into parts of India, causing massive flooding. And if you zoom out to the whole region, you see this combination of powerful cyclones and super intense monsoon rains. It's displaced hundreds of thousands of people and, tragically, has cost over 1,750 lives. And the why is pretty simple science, really. Hotter air can hold a lot more moisture. And warmer oceans, they're basically fuel for more powerful cyclones.
So these aren't just isolated stories or anecdotes. Oh no. This is all backed up by some pretty solid, hard data. So let's actually dive into a new scientific report that puts some real numbers on exactly how much India's climate is changing.
And wow, the numbers are stark. In just the last 10 years, India has already warmed by almost a full degree Celsius compared to the early 1900s. Now, I know, 0.9 degrees might not sound like a lot, but believe me, in climate terms, that is huge. It's more than enough to set off the kind of massive disruptions we've been talking about.
This chart, right here, it does a brilliant job of showing the two very different futures ahead. Just look at the long-term difference. If we manage to cut global emissions like crazy, India's warming could be held to around 1.5 degrees. But if we just keep going with business as usual, with high emissions, then India is staring down the barrel of a nightmarish 4.1 degrees of warming. The difference is just staggering.
Okay, so what do all these numbers actually mean for people living there on the ground? Well, in a word, heat. Unbelievable heat. In a world that's 3 degrees warmer, the probability of India having summers hotter than anything they've ever recorded, it doesn't just go up a little bit. It increases 20-fold. Let that sink in. 20 times more likely. That's not a small shift. That's a whole new reality.
Honestly, that data is terrifying. And it just begs the obvious question, right? What on earth is the world doing about all this? Well, to answer that, we need to zoom out from India to the global stage and talk about the recent COP30 climate summit. Because there, a new and frankly pretty worrying idea started to dominate the conversation.
So, how did it go?
Well, the general feeling is that the summit was, to put it politely, a massive disappointment. A damp squib, as they say. Lots of talk, but very little actual, concrete action. And this is all happening while the urgent data we just looked at keeps piling up.
But one really important phrase did come out of all those talks: temperature overshoot. Now, I know it sounds super technical, but stick with me because it's an absolutely critical concept if you want to understand where we're probably heading. So, what in the world is it? Okay, let's break this down. Think of overshoot as a kind of a high-stakes gamble in 3 steps. Step 1 is basically admitting defeat on the first goal. We admit that we are going to blow past the 1.5-degree warming limit. We're going to overshoot it. Step 2, after we cross that dangerous line, the world supposedly wakes up, gets its act together, and starts taking truly massive, aggressive action to slash greenhouse gases. And then, step 3, because of that heroic effort, global temperatures will hopefully, slowly start to come back down, landing back at that 1.5-degree target sometime by 2100. So you see the catch, right? The absolutely crucial point here is that this entire plan, this whole strategy, hangs on a gigantic if. It all comes down to whether humanity can and will actually do that massive mobilization needed in step 2. And here's the kicker. The longer we wait, the higher that temperature peak goes, and the longer and harder the journey back down will be. And that really leaves us with the final, ultimate question, doesn't it? The science couldn't be clearer. The impacts are already being felt everywhere, from Tehran to Chennai. This story of water is rapidly turning into a global story of crisis. So, as our world keeps getting hotter, will we finally act with the kind of urgency this moment demands? Will we be the ones to turn that huge, uncertain if into a definite win?